Hi everybody! Welcome to another video where I read the first chapter of books that you might be interested in. This book is called Instructions for Dancing and it is by Nicola Yoon. While we're all stuck at home, why not get stuck into a good book? And I hope that you find this one tantalizing. Let's read. Chapter 1, A Better Version of Me. Books don't work their magic on me anymore. It used to be that if I was in a funk or in the barren hinterland between sad and mad, I could just pluck any random one of my favourites from the shelf and settle into my pink fuzzy chair for a good read. By chapter 3, chapter 4 at the very latest, I'd be feeling better. These days, though, the books are nothing but letters arranged into correctly spelled words, arranged into grammatically correct sentences and well-structured paragraphs and thematically cohesive chapters. They're no longer magical or transporting. In a past life, I was a librarian, so my books are arranged by genre. Until I started giving them away, the contemporary romance section was the biggest. My favourite of all time is Cupcakes and Kisses. I pull it down from my shelf and flip through it, giving it one last shot to be magical. The best scene is when the no-nonsense head chef and the sexy, constantly brooding line cook with the mysterious past have a food fight in the kitchen. They both end up covered in flour and icing. There's kissing and a lot of dessert-related wordplay. Sugar lips, sweet buns, sticky situations. 6 months ago, this scene would have made me gooey inside. See what I did there? Now, though, nothing. And since the words haven't changed from the last time I read them, I have to admit the problem isn't the book. The problem is me. I close the book and stack it on top of the others I'm giving away. One last trip to the library tomorrow and all my romances will be gone. Just as I start putting them in my backpack, Mum pokes her head into my room. Her eyes travel a circuit from my face, down the tower of books, up to the 4 empty rows on my shelf, and then back to my face. She frowns and looks like she wants to say something, but then she doesn't. Instead, she stretches out her hand and pushes her phone toward me. "It's your father," she says. I shake my head so hard my braids whip around my face. She jabs the phone my way again. Take it, she mouths. No, 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 I mouth back. I've never seen two mimes arguing, but I imagine it would look something like this. She moves out of the doorway and all the way into my room. I have just enough space to dart around her, so I do. I sprint down our small hallway and lock myself in the bathroom. Mum's inevitable knock comes 10 seconds later. I open the door. She looks back at me and sighs. I sigh back at her. Most of our communication these days comes in the form of these small exhalations. Hers are frustrated and long-suffering and exasperated and impatient and disappointed. Mine are confused. "Yvonne Antoinette Thomas," she says, "how long are you going to keep this up?" The answer to her question, and I think it's a fair one, is forever. Forever is how long I'm going to be angry at Dad. Really, the better question is, why isn't she? She slips the phone back into her apron pocket. There's a dusting of flour on her forehead and some in her short afro, making it look like she suddenly went grey. "You giving away more books?" she asks. I nod. "You used to love them," she says. The way she says it, you'd think I was setting them on fire instead of donating them to the library. I meet her eyes. It feels like maybe we're having a moment. If she's willing to talk to me about giving away my books, then maybe she's willing to talk about something real, like Dad and the divorce, and how things have been since. "Mum," I begin, but she shifts her eyes from mine, wipes her hands down at the front of her apron and interrupts me. "Danica and I are going to make brownies," she says. "Come down and help us." The baking's new. She started the day Dad moved out of our old house, and she hasn't stopped since. If she's not on shift at the hospital, she's baking. "I'm meeting Martin and Sophie and Cassidy tonight. We're supposed to start planning for our road trip." "You spend more time out of the house than in it these days," she says. I never know what to do when she says something like that. It's not a question and not an accusation, but it has a little bit of both in it. Instead of answering, I stare at her apron. It reads, kissed the cook, and has a drawing of two enormous red lips smacking. It's true that I'm not home much these days. The thought of spending the next few hours baking with her and my sister Danica fills me not with despair exactly, but something close to it. Danica will be dressed perfectly for the occasion. A vintage-style apron with a matching chef's hat that sits in the middle of her afro poofs. She'll talk about her latest boyfriend, who she's very excited about. Mum will tell gory emergency room stories and insist on playing reggae music, something old school like Peter Tosh or Jimmy Cliff, or if Danica gets her way, they'll play trip hop while Danica documents the whole thing for social media. They'll both pretend that everything is just completely okay with our family. Everything is not okay. Mum sighs again and rubs her forehead. The flour dust spreads. There's flour, I say, reaching to wipe it away. She dodges my hand. Leave it. It's just going to keep getting dirty anyway. Mum's originally from Jamaica. She moved here when she was 14 with Grandma and Grandpa. The only time she has a Jamaican accent is when she's nervous or upset. Right now her accent is slight, but it's there. She turns and goes back downstairs. As I get dressed, I try not to think about our not quite an argument, but end up thinking about it anyway. Why was she so upset with me for giving away the last of my romance books? It's like she's disappointed in me for not being the same person I was a year ago. But of course I'm not the same person. How could I be? I wish I were as unaffected by the divorce as she and Danica are. I wish I could bake with them, carefree. I wish I could go back to being the girl who thought her parents, especially her dad, could do no wrong. To being the girl who hoped to have a love just like theirs when she grew up. I used to believe in happily ever afters because they had one. I want to go back and unknow all of the things I know now. But you can't unknow things. I can't unknow that Dad cheated on Mum. I can't unknow that he left us all for another woman. Mum misses the version of me that used to love those books. I miss her too. Chapter 2. Former favourite romance genres. Contemporary. 1. Enemies to lovers. Asking the perennial question, will they kill each other or will they kiss each other? I'm kidding. Of course they're going to kiss. 2. Love triangle. Everyone loves to hate triangles, but actually they're great. They exist so the main character can choose between versions of themselves, who they used to be and who they're still becoming. Side note, if you ever find yourself choosing between a vampire and a werewolf, choose the vampire. See number 1 below for more on why you should obviously choose the vampire. 3. Second chance. These days I realise this is the most unrealistic trope. If someone hurts you once, why would you give them the chance to do it again? Oh, having trouble with this page. Here we go. Paranormal. 1. Vampires. They're sexy and will love you forever. 2. Angels. They have wings that they'll use to envelop you or take you away from this place to wherever you want to be. 3. Shapeshifters. Jaguars and leopards mostly, but basically anything in the big cat family. I once tried reading about dinosaur shapeshifters, T-Rexes, Pterodons, Aptosauruses, etc. They're as horrifying as you think they are. Chapter 3. Give a book, take a book. By the time I get downstairs the next morning, Mum's already left for her shift at the hospital. Danica is at the dining table taking pictures of the brownies she and Mum made. They're arranged into a pyramid on one of Mum's fancy new cake platters. Danica is from the jaunty angle school of picture taking. She tilts her phone and circles the brownie pyramid, taking picture after jaunty picture. I get myself cereal and sit at the table next to her. We've been in this apartment for 6 months, but it still feels temporary, like I'm just visiting. I keep waiting to get back to my real life. Compared to our old house, this place is small. I miss having our own private backyard. Now we share a courtyard with 12 other apartments. Our house has had 2 bathrooms, but now we only have 1. Mostly, though, I miss how every room held our memories. Danica settles on a photo and slides her phone to me so I can see her post. You can't even tell they're burnt, she said, with pride. She's right. They do look perfect. I scroll through her posts. There's a selfie of her and Mum, dusted with flour, holding a big block of chocolate and laughing. That makes me wish I'd stayed and helped. I read through the hashtags. Hashtag mother-daughter baking night. Hashtag black girl magic baking. Hashtag perfect brownies are perfect, before sliding the phone back to her. How come you're not at brunch? She asks. Usually I spend Sunday mornings with my best friends at Surf City Waffle, the absolute best waffle place in all of Los Angeles. This morning, though, they're all busy. Everyone's got stuff, I say. So you're just going to hang around here then? She asks, and not in a way that makes me think she wants me to hang around here. I drop my spoon back into the bowl and take a good look at her. Most days, she looks like a supermodel from the 70s, with her enormous afro, bright, glittery makeup, and vintage clothes. Right now, she looks even more beautiful than usual. If I had to guess, I'd say she has a date. But I don't have to guess because the doorbell rings a second later. A huge smile breaks across her face and she runs to the door with a squeal. In the last year, Danica has had 8 different boyfriends, which is an average of 0.667 boyfriends per month or 0.154 boyfriends per week. Anyway, my problem is not the quantity or even the quality of her boyfriends. To be clear, the quality could be better. I don't know why she chooses boys who are so much less interesting and smart than she is. It's the fact that she's dating at all. Why am I the only one who learned the lesson of mum and dad's divorce? I leave my bowl on the table and try to sneak through the living room so I can avoid saying hello. No luck. Hey, Evie, says the guy. He says hey as if it's more than one syllable. Hi, I say back, trying to remember his name. He's dressed in board shorts and a sleeveless t-shirt, like he's going to the beach or just got back from it. He's white, tall and muscled, with long, messy blonde hair. If he were furniture, he'd be a really nice-looking shag carpet. We stand there awkwardly for a few seconds before Danica puts us all out of our misery. Ben and I are thinking of going to the movies, she says. You can come if you want. But the look on both of their faces tells me 2 things. 1, they are not thinking of going to the movies. They are thinking of staying here alone in the apartment so they can make out. And 2, if they were going to the movies, they wouldn't want me tagging along. Why did she even ask? Is she feeling sorry for me? Can't. Have fun though, I say. The only thing I have to do today is go to the library and get rid of my books, but sharing that will make me feel pathetic. I go upstairs and get dressed. When I leave, I say goodbye like it has more than just one syllable. I'm on my bicycle and halfway to the library when I hear that today is Sunday. My library is closed on Sundays. Going back home right now while Danica and Ben are hanging out isn't really an option. It's one of those beautiful spring days when the morning fog lingers and the air smells wet and new. I decide to head to the park at La Brie Tar Pits, but with a detour through Hancock Park. The Hancock Park neighbourhood is only 10 minutes from our apartment, but it might as well be another world. The houses here are as big as castles. All they're missing are moats, portcullis, dragons, and damsels in distress. Every time we drive through here, Mum says it's a crime that houses like these exist in a city with so much homelessness. She treats a lot of those homeless people in the ER. I ride slowly, meandering down street after street, gawking at the enormous pristine lawns and the enormously expensive cars. Eventually, I find myself in a street lined on both sides by jasmine bushes and overgrown jacaranda trees. The branches overhang the street and form a canopy of purple petals. I feel like I'm riding through a tunnel into a fairy tale. The sun slips behind a cloud and the air is suddenly colder. I pull over onto the sidewalk and take my jacket from my backpack. As I'm about to ride off again, I spot one of those wooden neighbourhood library boxes. It's bright blue and looks like a miniature house with a gabled roof and weathered white doors that are latched shut. A small placard reads, "Little Free Library." "You certainly have a lot of books for us, dear," says the woman, just as I'm propping up my bike. I scream and whip around. An old woman is standing behind me, not even a foot away. "Holy fuckballs," I say, and then slap my hand over my mouth. "Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. I didn't see you there." She chuckles at me and moves closer. Her skin is a pale and thin brown, like a weathered paper. "Never mind about the cursing," she says, "though one wonders what a fuckball might be." I smile but look past her. Where did she even come from? "Is this your library?" I ask. "Well, I made it, but of course it's for everyone. Do you know about these? The idea is to get people reading and actually talking to their neighbours instead of just living next door to them." She rubs her hands together. "Now, what do you have for us today?" I swing my backpack to the ground and take out an armful of books. She takes some from me and presses them close to her chest. These are very well loved, she says, looking down at the titles. She's one of these people who mouths words as she reads. It makes it seem like she's chanting a weird spell. Barely There, Cupcakes and Kisses, Destiny's Duke, Love, Set, Match, Tiger's Heart. They're all great. My voice comes out in a scratchy whisper. I clear my throat. You should read them. Why are you giving them away? She asks. She's standing closer now, still clutching the books she took from me. I grab more from my backpack and consider telling her the truth, that the books don't feel like they belong to me anymore, that love stories are like fairy tales. You're not meant to believe in them forever. I stopped believing in them the day after Dad moved out. It's funny how a day can out just like any other and end so differently. Sometimes I wish there were a weather report for your life. Tomorrow's forecast is for routine high school shenanigans in the morning, but with a dramatic parental betrayal by late afternoon, ending with wild emotional despair by nightfall. Details after the next commercial break. I'd spend the day at school in shock, not quite believing that Dad wouldn't be there when I got home. By lunchtime, I was sure I could convince him that he and Mum were making a mistake. After school, I took the city bus all the way to Santa Monica and then rode my bike across campus to the humanities building where his office is. I took the stairs two at a time, thinking about what I was going to say. Maybe the problem was he didn't realize how much Mum loved him. She isn't always the most demonstrative. Or maybe they needed some more non-parent time together, a weekly date night or something. Or to find a hobby to do together so they could reconnect in the way relationship experts always talk about. I ran down the hall to his office, thinking he'd understand. We always understood each other. I didn't knock on his door. I should have, but I didn't. I just opened it and burst inside, hoping he'd be there. He was there. He was kissing a woman who wasn't Mum. I looked back and forth between them. I tried to convince myself that maybe this relationship was new, that it had only started in the last 2 days, but of course it wasn't. That was silly. It wasn't a first kiss, and it wasn't a last one. This kiss said there was a whole history to their relationship, was one of the many kisses that broke up our family and broke Mum's heart and broke mine too. Dad ran his hand down his face. Evie, sweetheart, he said, you didn't knock. I'm not sure if he was scolding me. When he and Mum told us they were getting separated, they said they'd just grown apart, that they still loved each other and loved us. But that was a lie. The reason Dad left us was right here, wearing a jade green dress and big hoop earrings and pressing her hands to her lips, like somehow it could make me unsee what I'd seen. I backed away from them and ran through the door and down the hallway and down the stairs until I was outside. Dad called out to me, but what was there to say? There wasn't anything at all to say anymore. That evening, Mum told me Dad had called and told her what happened. She said she was sorry. I had to see that. She asked me not to tell Danica. She said she never wanted to discuss it again. Of course, I don't tell the old woman any of that. Instead, I shove the last of my books into the little library. When I look at her, she seems sympathetic, like somehow she'd heard all the things I didn't say. I latch the door shut. Well, have fun reading those, I say. She points at the library. Aren't you going to take a book, dear? The rules are give a book, take a book. There isn't one to take, I say. Are you sure? I'm certain someone left one earlier. I reopen the door and spy the book she's talking about in the back left corner. The book is called Instructions for Dancing. It's a slim paperback with water-damaged and dog-eared pages. Underneath the title, there's a simple line drawing of two sets of footprints facing each other. I flip through the pages, reading chapter titles: Salsa, Bachata, Waltz, Tango, Merengue, East Coast Swing, Lindy Hop. Each dance has its own sequence of numbered diagrams with arrows pointing from one set of footsteps to another. Maybe I should leave this for someone who wants to learn how to dance, I say, and start to put it back. That someone could be you, dear. She comes closer to me. I insist, she says. It seems so important to her that I take the book and drop it into my backpack. Nice meeting you, I say as I hop onto my bike. You too. Take care. At the end of the block, I turn to wave goodbye. But when I look back, she's no longer there. I ride for 2 blocks before realizing that I'm heading east instead of west towards home. How did I get so turned around? I pull off to the side of the road and check my phone. It's already after 3. I've been meandering for 4 hours. My stomach growls. Like it too just realised how late it is. I take the non-scenic route home, pedalling fast while still being careful. LA drivers sometimes act as if bicyclists don't exist. I lock away my bike and turn the corner to my apartment. Danica and Ben are on the stoop. They're so busy staring into each other's eyes, they don't realise I'm only a few feet away. There are some things you don't need to see in your life. Your little sister making out is one of those some things. I'm about to clear my throat and spare us both the trauma, but before I can, she leans in and kisses him. My vision goes black, like the moment just before a movie begins. And I see. Woohoo! I hope you enjoyed those first couple of chapters. I'm excited to find out what happens next, but I'm not going to find out unless you tell me. So please read instructions for dancing. Tell me what happens. Surely she learns how to dance. Please let me know if you'd like a copy of this book and I can organise it for you in our school library. See you later.